Welcome back to The Tangent. I'm not going to introduce anybody that's in here because we already know who's here from the last episode. It's the same group of people. Same 5 of us. We're going to go and jump right back into the tournament. Let's get this concluded as quickly as possible. We're going to start this episode and this bracket in the bottom left. We're going to talk about The Witcher 3 and Red Dead Redemption. We'll start with The Witcher 3. I think there's only one person in the room that's actually played the game, and he's only got a few hours into it. We all have heard and seen different things as of late of what The Witcher is, and why it possibly won Game of the Year that year, because apparently from the TV show, it seems pretty fun, and because of that, I think I will probably end up picking up this game at some point in the next 3 or 4 months, and actually playing through it. Again, I'm not sure the game style. I haven't even really looked at it. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's a lot like the hack and slash stuff from...
Okay, so The Witcher 3, I've put in maybe 3 or 4 hours total into it. It's kind of Skyrim-y, where you're third person all the time. You're hacking and slashing enemies. You're finding random quests, from an old lady who somebody stole her pot, and you have to go get her a new frying pan or something. That kind of style of thing.
Is it open world?
Yes, asterisks. So the open world is
like the asterisks.
It's broken up into different loading zones, and you can only access different parts of the quote open world when you reach certain parts of the storyline.
So it's kind of like
it's semi-open world,
like GTA 3 style, where sure it was open world, but you had to get up far enough along in the story to open the other islands.
Kind of, but even once you open the other islands, you could just drive from one to the other without loading screens and everything. This one, each zone is its own secluded zone, but once you unlock it, you can go to and from it at will.
Okay.
So.
I get it.
So it's open world, yes, asterisks. And honestly, that was the biggest reason I couldn't keep playing the game.
It kind of gives me an old nostalgic to Final Fantasy VII, to where they had worlds you can go into. You have the open world where you can drive around in that flying ship, but then once you get to a certain point, you have to load into the city that you're in, and that's pretty much open. You can walk around in there, but then you got to load back out to get to the main traveling areas.
And in all honesty, maybe if I had played it more would have been opened up. Very similar to Sword and Shield. Once you get to the open world, oh my God, there's all these really powerful Pokemon. Maybe there's powerful Pokemon in Witcher 3. I don't know. I didn't get far enough into
Pokemon
it.
In Witcher 3. We've never played it, so
yeah, sure.
But I mean, looking at the other games, because you said something about not sure why it won Game of the Year. It's that particular year. But for the publications that we were looking at, it won 8 of the Game of the Years.
Wow.
Bloodborne won 3, and then there was one-ofs for Fallout 4, Metal Gear Solid 5, Phantom Pain, and some game named Pruned that's probably about a raisin. I don't know.
Prunes or plums?
But looking at the other games that year...
Looking at that list of Game of the Years, it doesn't seem like an awfully strong year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the whole thing when I saw that Witcher 3 was making it onto the bracket. I was like, it seems like a perfectly fine game, but why is it here?
Mm-hmm.
Now we know.
Now we know. It just wasn't a terribly strong year.
Tim, do you have any thoughts on The Witcher 3? I know...
I just said them. I think it seems like a perfectly fine game, but I don't know why it's here.
Okay. Devin?
Minecraft. I mean, I'm gonna preface this all right quick just by saying I am not a gamer. I am just a dude that likes playing games if the subject of the game fits my taste. And that's about the only thing appealing about The Witcher 3. I don't know anything about it, but just watching what it looks like to me, it seems somewhat appealing. It seems like
are you referring to the Netflix show or to watching gameplay?
Watching gameplay.
Okay.
It kind of just goes on what Tim said. It seems like an alright enough game for me to maybe play because it's got an interesting-esque subject, which I really don't know anything about anyways. So,
all right, Harrison?
I will point out one more thing. The Witcher 3 and The Witcher in general does hit one of my big bugaboos about anything to do with weaponry, and it's just storing crap on your back. Storing crap on your back is not terribly realistic. And I pointed this out to any people.
Everybody in this room has heard it multiple times.
Okay, putting a sword on your back is perfectly fine if you're transporting a sword from one place to another and you need it out of the way. It is not a way you go into combat unless you really want to get yourself dead.
I love that you're more concerned about where he stores his silver sword compared to the fact that he's fighting with a sword made of silver.
I'm getting to that.
No need
because he does carry two
I
swords.
understand.
That's something I've noticed.
It is a fantasy game, and it seems like the gameplay is perfectly fine. It's just that's one of those things that bugs me, and I just wanted to point it out. So it is one of my pet peeves.
All right, so
all I know about the game is that the guy has a ponytail.
the guy has
All right.
That's about it.
and the guy who plays him, in the TV show is
Henry
Superman.
Cavill. Yeah, Henry Cavill. all right. James, tell us about Red Dead Redemption.
Okay, so again, we're at another game where only one of us in this room has played it, and happens to be the Red Dead Redemption is my game.
Okay.
This one isn't Nick.
Yeah, this isn't Nick. This is actually my game. Okay, so Harrison has played it too. I did not know that. Harrison just informed me that Harrison has played this game too. Red Dead Redemption to me is it goes into a genre that I really love, which is the Old West. I think that I should have been born in the Old West, and I probably should have been a sheriff, because I am the epitome of what a Boy Scout should probably be. I always think about protecting people and wanting to gun down things and stuff like that. So the game itself appeals to me very much so. It is Grand Theft Auto on horses. Flat out. But you do play as an criminal, gang type person that he is trying to make good in his life by rounding up his old ex-gang. I mean...
Wait, is he an ex-con that tries to better himself by murdering everybody on the countryside?
Not everybody in the countryside, just he's hunting down his old gang.
Oh.
And he will kill anybody that's now affiliated with his old
That
gang.
sounds like a rehabilitated ex-convict to me.
Oh, absolutely. But the thing is that he can kill them because he has the backing of the government. That's just the way it is. But again, it's Grand Theft Auto on horses.
Okay.
And it has an open world. Sometimes it takes forever to get from one mission to the next because instead of driving a car, you got to ride a horse, and they only travel at maybe 12 miles per hour instead of 70.
Like
They
one
move-
horsepower?
1 horsepower.
They move horse speed.
So it does take a little longer to get from place to place. I think that the gunplay in that game and in that system is amazing. They have a thing called Deadshot, which it kind of slows everything down around you and allows you to place the gunshots. And he does like a quick draw almost out of that. So you choose where he's going to fire in a slow motion type. The bad guys' characters are still moving. They're just moving in slow motion. So you got to do it quickly. Mm-hmm. But the second you've finished and you've chosen your targets, he will do a quick draw from his holster or from his rifle, and he'll just lays down everybody. Love it. It's called Deadeye. It's one of my favorite things in the game.
I've seen the effect in a few different games. In the Fallout games, it was the VATS system.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
And there was I think there was a Splinter Cell type game that I played where you had the same thing. You could hit the pause, pick your targets, then he shoots them all.
And you also had the same kind of slowdown system from like Max Payne, way back
absolutely.
then.
Yep. Okay.
It's a great system.
It is a good system, and I really enjoyed the game because the story keeps you involved. You do play as Marston's in this one. Marston's was a background character in the gang. You learn that in Red Dead 2, but he is pivotal in this game. So he is the main character that you run around as, and he's basically just trying to better himself so he can be a rancher with his wife, and he has to hunt down his old gang to, make it so that he's not getting hunted down.
Go legally murder people.
Pretty much so, yeah.
Right on.
So Nick, you haven't really played?
Nope, I've seen it. I've played a lot of GTA, so I understand the GTA concept. Honestly, one of my questions for you on the game was about travel. You said something about the horses traveling slow.
Yeah.
Does it not feel like they made the world as accessible as they should have given the travel speed?
They just made the towns really far away.
Okay.
And sometimes you gotta, The world, now, it isn't as big as the Grand Theft Auto world when it comes to the vastness of how big it is, but because you're riding on horseback, sometimes going from mission to mission takes a little bit.
Okay.
Because sometimes you got to go from the top right corner to the bottom left corner. And
Is there no fast travel in the game?
there is a way to fast travel. It's the caravans or the not the caravan. It's a
Carriage?
stagecoach.
Okay.
They do have a stagecoach in most towns where you can stagecoach from one town to the next.
But you can't just hit your pause button, go
No.
to a town, and just immediately
You have to
travel
find
there?
the stagecoach, and you
Okay.
pay the stagecoach to take you there. And most of the time, to me, I didn't find that as appealing as just riding. Because truthfully, just riding in the game is just as fun because along the way, you'll get random people asking for your help, or you'll run across this, or you'll run across that on your way to the missions, and sometimes you get sidetracked.
Sometimes things
So-
go wrong too, though.
Oh yeah, and sometimes you get ambushed, and
So
you
take-
die.
So taking longer to get from one place to another, yeah, it took longer, but it also had its benefits.
It does.
Okay.
It does. It does have some benefits. I mean, it was just, for me, it was just fun because then I could just go through and it's like, hey, so-and-so needs help. And I walk over and say, bam, 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 you're good. Go, get out of here. You're done. And then that makes my, anyway. So, Tim, you have any other questions, first off?
No, I think I know enough to wrap up this.
Tim,
Okay,
any
so
thoughts?
So, like I said, for The Witcher 3, I'm a big weapons guy, and guns are weapons. I really do enjoy that time period and that era in terms of firearms, because that is the time of our Lord and Savior John Moses Browning, in his heyday, and I mean that seems like a really interesting thing to me, and I might play it just to fiddle around with its weapon system.
And they do put actual guns,
Yes.
real names of guns, and they do react, especially in Red Dead 2, they react a little more like the guns would react in real life.
Yes, I have seen lists of actual firearms that are in the game, and these are firearms that I have, been interested in actually trying to get a hold of or purchase, and they seem like really, really neat things, and interacting them with them in a video game fashion does seem like it might be fun.
I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this because it's a little bit of the same story with Witcher. I haven't played either of these games, but I would say with Red Dead Redemption, I think it seems like a much more worthy candidate of Game of the Year than the other one because of everybody knows the GTA style, or I would say most people know the GTA style, and having that cool like Western throw on it makes it more appealing to me than the person than the game it's going up against.
All right. Harrison?
I love the game, what I played of it. I think that it's really important for games to be fun, and there's a lot of fun to be had playing that game. There's so many, it's a GTA game basically, and you can always just screw around in GTA and do whatever you want, really.
You don't have
Yeah.
to follow the missions from mission to mission. You can
Yeah.
play around. They have side quests. They have it's just like Grand Theft Auto when it comes to
I'm pretty
ways,
sure
so.
most people have played a GTA game and wasted just hours doing nothing.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just
All right, so we're going to go ahead and run around our votes. I'm going to go ahead and vote last this time because I seem to get outvoted quite a bit. So we're going to...
this time you wouldn't have.
Yeah,
Honestly, just from what I'm hearing so far,
it seems
so
like we're all
it's pretty
unanimous
ubiquitous.
for-
Red Dead. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and say Red Dead for me.
Okay,
I'm gonna say Red Dead for me.
I think it's unanimous.
so I
Yeah.
think Red Dead is the unanimous vote for
I
this
think
one.
that's the first unanimous vote.
The
that we've
very
had.
first unanimous
Cool,
vote
cool.
for
I'll
this
dig
one.
it.
So we'll move on to the next one because we want to make this as quick as possible. Like I said before, we're going to go on and move on to the next bracket. The next bracket will be God of War and Skyrim. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I thought The Last of Us and Sekiro was going to be a hard one to do.
I think this one's harder.
God of War, we all know the old school God of Wars. The whole Kratos and his freaking swords on chains and his whole combat aspect of what God of War is. And then when they came out with this game and they took his swords away and gave him this wicked
Leviathan axe.
axe called the Leviathan that
Yeah.
acts like Mjolnir, but it's a freaking axe. So he throws it, it buries itself into somebody, and then he can call it back to him.
Yeah.
It's like, holy cow. What else do you need? I mean, you really don't need anything else. Just give me
An
an
awesome sidekick.
Just give me Kratos and this
Yeah.
freaking Leviathan axe. I don't need nothing else. But then they throw in the no cutscenes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no cutscene. It's one continuous
Playthrough.
camera.
Yeah, one continuous camera shot from beginning to end if you never die.
You have his son, who is his own character, but he does help you out as a sidekick. You're shooting arrows at enemies, jumping on their backs, getting their attention so Kratos can do his thing. And then the story behind it was absolutely amazing. I do not want to talk too much about it, because if we do, we will spend the next hour talking about God of War. So that's my point. God of War is amazing. And I'm not going to say anything else. So, Nick?
Okay, so my biggest thing about this game is, and there's a lot of things I really, really can't wait to talk about this game, but my biggest thing is the Norse mythology side of it. Like, the style of the armor, the style of the world, the style of the weaponry, everything being the Norse mythology is just, it's visually pleasing to me on so many different levels that I can't get over just watching this game. Yeah, and I also have to mention the kid. There's so much about this game. The fact that his kid is not just an escort quest. He's nigh invincible on his own. He can help you out in combat. You can spec into some of the things that he can do to help you out. This is a game that, after having seen it, I just can't get enough of it, and I might actually buy a PlayStation to play this game.
It looks amazing. The gameplay seems amazing, and we were talking about Last of Us earlier, and I was talking about how much I enjoyed that game, and the one neat thing that I think they translated better was Ellie in Last of Us was, for the most part, a nigh invincible character that you just have to make sure it doesn't get eaten every once in a while. And I think they translated that into God of War and did it better. So that's an improvement on an already kind of neat concept, and I don't know, that it seems good. I like it.
So, I'm going to talk about God of War as a franchise. It's funny, I mean, we made the comparison between Last of Us and Uncharted, and, I mean, that's all, like, PlayStation exclusive. Uncharted and God of War are both two PlayStation exclusive series, and I think they're two of their best series, or definitely two of the most popular. I enjoyed the hell out of playing through most of the God of War games, just because of, I think it's just awesome. The subjects of it, God of War, awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also within your wheelhouse and style, too.
Yeah, it's 100% in my wheelhouse.
It's pretty action heavy, yeah.
It's a very action heavy. I'm a SLUT for that kind of thing. So,
Where does spelling be?
For any of the 4-year-olds watching.
Right.
Any of the 4-year-olds.
I think that this is definitely the best of the series. I enjoyed the 15 to 20 minutes that I played through it on my buddy's system, and I can't wait to get it myself and play it as well. So, I mean, I'm not really going to waste too much time on that, because I could praise it for a while.
Yep.
I don't know a whole lot about the God of War series. I've seen a good amount of gameplay of this game and, reviews on it, and it looks fantastic. I think I would love playing it for sure. That's all I've got to say about that.
All right. Well, I mean, we have high praises for God of War. Now, we're also going to have high praises for Skyrim, because for those of us, for those of us who are into that style. Now, I personally have never been an Elder Scrolls person. I think the Elder Scrolls are good for what they are, and there are people who there's a high following for what it is. Me personally, I find Skyrim a little clunky. That's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just one of the things that I've noticed. Now, Skyrim is not in my wheelhouse in games. Yes, I did play WoW, and a lot of people compare it to what World of Warcraft is, but it's a little different in itself. The world itself is humongous, from what I understand. and it's continual play. I mean, there are people that, I don't even remember what year it won, but whenever it came out, there are still people buying this game. They made a VR version of it, so on the PlayStation VR, you can play it in VR mode to where you are the guy and you look around and you're in VR. It's crazy how much they put into this game. But personally, it's not my thing.
Okay, so since I'm usually sitting here with pie charts, put a little bit in perspective for Skyrim. It won Game of the Year the same year that Portal 2 and Minecraft came out.
It beat out Minecraft.
7 victories for Skyrim versus 5 for Portal 2 and 2 for Minecraft. So it did not have simple competition.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Yeah, it was a hard year for all of those games.
Absolutely.
Skyrim, though, me commenting on the game itself, is possibly my number 1 seed for this entire bracket. I'll tell you that right now. I love Skyrim. I've had more holy crap did that just happen moments playing Skyrim than any other game on this list by far. There's just so much to discover, and the way it's presented to you in surprising manners, in handleable manners, like the way it throws stuff at you, it's not like a blade from out of nowhere and it kills you and it's like, oh well, crap, I guess I'll just have to learn that that's there. It's a game where you can explore dungeons and find new things after 400 hours of playing, because there is just so much there. And after you play it for so long, you find not only is there this giant overworld that would take you hours and hours and hours just to see every bit of it on foot or even on horseback, but there's another world under that world. Like, there's so much to find and see and do and customize. Oh, don't even get me started on the add-ons community right now. And that's why this game is still as popular as it is, because even on the Steam store or any other store, or the Nexus, which is a website you can get add-ons from, there's infinite possibilities of things to do in this game, and that's why it's still as popular as it is, and it's released on so many systems like it is.
Tim.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off by saying that the Elder Scroll games in general are very much not my kind of games. So I'm not a huge fan of Skyrim, but I will go ahead and say that while I don't understand the appeal, it must have an appeal, because it's the studio that made Skyrim has been, just like with GTA 5 and Rockstar, they've just been subsisting on Skyrim for a long time, and they've only recently come out and said that they're going to finally do something else, which I think they're moving on to Elder Scrolls Online, which I'm not sure.
It's been out for a while. It's not incredibly popular.
Right. So, but I think Skyrim benefits from the same thing that a lot of more PC games benefit from, and that is large modding communities. Minecraft benefited from that. KOTOR benefited from that. When you get a game that's popular enough and moddable, you can subsist on just that game for a very, very long time, and I think that speaks to Skyrim's playability.
Well, I mean, I just looked it up. It won Game of the Year in 2011, so it's freaking been out for almost 10 years in itself.
Yeah.
And it's still incredibly popular.
Being played.
Yes.
It started out on the old systems, though, didn't it? Like the 360 and the...
Yeah.
So it was 360, PlayStation 3, and now it's on Xbox One and PlayStation 4, so... It's just crazy in itself.
I'm like 90% sure it's out on Switch, too.
Yes, it is.
It is. Well, I mean, obviously I'm just going to kind of repeat what's been said. Its popularity speaks for itself, and the fact that it's... if I haven't played it, but there's a reason why I haven't played it, and it's because I don't have the time that I would like to dedicate towards playing it. I was never... I've said it already, I'm not like a gamer, but I am a content fiend when I do like something, and I never got into it because I didn't want to not be able to put in the time and to feed the addiction that I would probably get from playing it. And really, that's all I have to say about it, because it seems like a game that I would enjoy a lot. Its popularity speaks for itself. It's 9 years old now, and it's still immensely popular. It's still played all the time. They've, done things to continue its reign as a great game for, the last decade, considering it's been around for 9/10 of it.
So, Harrison, quickly.
So, with this game, throughout my childhood, I always owned Nintendo systems, and the first time I didn't own one was when I got my Xbox 360. And it came with 2 games, Forza 4 and Skyrim. I tried to play Skyrim. It was the first game I ever played on my console. I played through the tutorial. It took a while for me to figure out how to do it, because at the time I was like 12. And then I ended up walking off somehow because I didn't understand how to play it, and I ended up in some cave, stuck in like a save. I was stuck in a save spot where I just kept dying, so I kind of just hate the game.
You got yourself stuck in a save loop, and you just...
All right. So we're going to move this quickly. We're going to go and do a vote. Now, here's what is going to be the dilemma for me, is that as much as I like God of War, I think that the popularity of Skyrim is going to win out in my vote. Because of the fact that it's been around for so long and people are still playing it, and the game itself is what it is. It may not be in my forte of what type of game it is, but its popularity is going to actually push my vote towards it. So my vote is Skyrim.
Well,
I hate to dog God of War because I love it, but Skyrim is my vote.
Well, to give God of War some credit, if you took a slice of Skyrim and a slice of God of War, I think pound for pound, if that's what that means.
Baby.
Pound for pound, for what each game is, I do think God of War is a better game in that small vacuum. I think it's going to have a better combat system. I think it's going to have a better character progression system. It's got probably a better story overall. In the last 10 years, I've finished the main story of Skyrim once. But we're not living in a vacuum. We're not living in a small thing like that. God of War came out 2018, I think.
Yeah.
And Skyrim's been out for 9 years now. And it's still amazing. I just stopped playing my most recent file a few months ago. I'm still playing this game. I think it's much, much better of a game because it has that everlasting
And
life.
that's kind of another reason why it gets my vote. Tim?
So yeah, I will agree. Skyrim has a huge amount of content, not just official, but also from the community. But in terms of, in my opinion, a game that I would actually be willing to play, I'm going to have to go with God of War, because the Elder Scroll games, again, are just not my style.
I get it. It's not my style either, but I'm giving Skyrim its vote because I think it's due.
I can't disagree with Nick and James too much, but my vote is for God of War, just in the fact that it is an amazing game, and I feel like this is the kind of vote that needs to come to the tiebreaker, because they're both so awesome games. You can't argue with the popularity of Skyrim, but God of War, it's an insanely great game. We touched on the fact that it kind of adds in the great playability that The Last of Us was lacking.
Yes.
And with all the features and stuff, it's kind of like a war of content here between these games. So my vote goes for God of War. Let's go.
It's
for
tied.
the
It's all on
tiebreaker.
Harrison.
If you couldn't tell from my different reactions to both games,
We're gonna piss people off now.
I understand that Skyrim is very popular, but for me personally, I would definitely try to play God of War before I ever gave Skyrim a chance again. So my vote goes for God of War.
All right, so God of War moves on.
Okay.
Sadly, we dropped Elder Scrolls Skyrim in the first round.
In the first
That's
round.
gonna get us some awesome feedback.
At least buy biodegradable toilet paper if you're gonna, vandalize
All right,
us.
so
Yeah.
as much as I want to jump back over to the top left, I'm actually going to jump to the top right because I want to leave a certain game for last because it'll probably take us the longest. We're gonna go through this really quick. Overwatch versus Sekiro, and it's gonna be super fast because Overwatch is not a game that I enjoy playing. I have played it. I'm not a big fan of online shooters.
Is this another category where I'm the only one that's put a significant amount of time into it?
Probably because
I've played Overwatch.
You've played Overwatch.
Yeah.
So my thing
I've
is
played
that
it, but not
I am not
a
into
lot of it.
online shooters.
Mm-hmm.
Overwatch is not a full online shooter, but it is an online competitive game, and I'm not good online. Again, we've talked about my eye-hand coordination, and my eye-hand coordination does not do good online. So,
Well, Overwatch is kind of a Team Fortress 2 clone. It's
right.
You've got your different classes. You're trying to accomplish certain goals, one team versus another. And then, you could be like a big tank up front or just like a little buzzy bee with machine gun running around the edge with lots of mobility. The replayability on it is just... It's insane because the matches are so short. It's pretty much like any online shooter, kind of like a Call of Duty, like Modern Warfare or something like that, because you're just trying to accomplish those things. But it's also got its ranked seasons where you're just trying to accomplish...
And they do have the Major League Gaming does have its own... Overwatch has its own league.
Absolutely.
There are champions. There are people. I mean, there are groups of people that do this, and it's a game. It's a Major League Gaming thing.
Like, I kind of hate to say it like this because it is a really good game. There's just not a lot to talk about with it because it's so simple in its design.
There's no
yeah.
story.
Yeah, there is no... That's not entirely true.
Well, stories you have to look for or read that aren't actually in the game.
Well, then,
Like-
yeah, I agree. You're not experiencing the story as you play because the story that exists has literally zero bearing on the gameplay. It's more of a, hey, we should have some story to go along with these characters, so let's make some comics online or some CGI animations and get people attached to them, which is nothing new. League does the exact same thing.
Yeah.
League of Legends does the exact same thing, and there are several other things that do the exact same concept.
So Overwatch is, we're going to kind of go over it quickly, like I said, because it is, like you said, it's a simple game. So, Tim?
Online shooters is not generally my bag. I have played a few. Some I like more than others. I haven't played Overwatch, but I have really no desire to play Overwatch because, like I said, very few online shooters are my thing. I can see if you like online shooters, it being your thing, and it does seem like it would be one of the better ones if you're into that.
Say no more. Again, I am not only not into online gaming, but I am not really into shooters. At a very early age, I picked up a controller to try and play a shooting game, and I realized that not only am I very bad at it, I have no desire to get better at it. So for me, Overwatch, unfortunately, isn't really a factor for me as far as consideration for game of the decade.
I've kind of liked shooters. I've only really loved Halo. I'd say besides the Halo series, this is the closest I've enjoyed a game that wasn't Halo as a shooter. The competitive aspect of it is kind of fun, but at the same time, it kind of limits players that aren't great at shooters. I do also think that there are sides of the community of the game that are pretty toxic, more
Agreed.
so than others. And I think it's a great game gameplay wise, but there's not really any story. I know that not all games have to have story. Like there's Madden games and stuff like that, but there's just not really any content there besides just 5 versus 5. Let's do that.
Right.
All right, so we've already discussed Sekiro in depth of the game itself, so we're just going to do a quick comparison of the two games, which is Sekiro doesn't have much replayability. Overwatch is one of those games that if you play it a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a huge contrast between the
There's
two
a
games.
larger cult following along with the Major League Gaming side of what Overwatch is to take Sekiro. I mean, anybody else have anything to say?
Well, Sekiro's only been out for less than a year at this
Right.
point, and hype for the game is already dying down.
Mhm.
Like that's
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if From Software is 100% confirmed, but I'm fairly certain that there's going to be no DLC for the game.
Yeah.
I don't believe they're coming out with a sequel for the game. I know that From Software is already working on another like Dark Souls-ish fantasy type game that has nothing to do with Sekiro. And with it already dying out after only being out a year, it doesn't say a lot for its longevity.
That's true. And I will say this. Every time I think Overwatch is dying off, it seems to come back.
Just this last BlizzCon, so a couple months ago, they announced Overwatch 2.
Yeah. So, I mean, literally, every time I think, okay, finally the hype is dying down, it comes back.
Yep.
The online shooter, or just online in general, is something that's going to always kind of stand the test of time and give it some weight more, to tip the scales in its favor.
Yeah, definitely.
Even with Sekiro being kind of more of my style of game, I can't deny the fact that Overwatch is popular for a reason.
Any thoughts, Harrison? You good?
No, let's just vote.
Okay.
Alright.
My vote's on Overwatch.
I don't have an easy vote. I'm gonna go Sekiro though. I think
Understandable.
I think it's got more depth to it. I mean, I know it has more depth to it because it's not the simple game that we just described. And it's the only game between the two, and I've played both of them quite a bit. Overwatch probably more hours, but Sekiro is the only game of the two that I would have times where I just could not wait to sit down and play more, and I just wanted to play more. And Overwatch, I sometimes just felt like I needed to grind more because it's competitive with numbers. So I vote Sekiro.
Okay. So I think I'm going to go with Sekiro also. It seems like more of the game that I would want to play. Don't get me wrong. Overwatch seems like a perfectly good online shooter, and if I was going to get into online shooters, I'd probably get into Overwatch, but that's just not the realm that I feel like being in at the moment, so...
Okay. It's kind of funny because I made an interesting comment about The Last of Us versus Sekiro. I'm going to make a comment about Overwatch versus Sekiro. They're both kind of games that, like, you have to be skilled more than just... going and playing the game, which I find hard to choose between the two, even though Overwatch is not at all in my bag, because of that fact that they're both kind of like, you have to be good at those games, and that's kind of what's going to keep the following for it from the fans of both games. But my vote's going to be for Sekiro also.
Outvoted again.
We do it purposely just to see how we react.
Honestly,
A coup
that
against the
one,
host
that one
over
had
here.
me a bit torn.
I
but-
honestly couldn't justify letting Sekiro get beaten after having it beat Last of Us in the last round.
I honestly don't think... I think I would have probably... If I went with my gut, I would have gone with Sekiro. I like Overwatch, kind of, but... And I think that it is an important game for gaming history, but I don't personally enjoy it that much.
Okay.
Alright, so Sekiro wins, and Overwatch gets beat. Again, another top seed that I think
Yeah, I think
Gotta
that's
be-
2 upsets in a row.
And,
got
I
beat
mean,
by
we
got
kinda-
beat by our opinions, which is okay, because that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
and,
I mean, and again, I'm going to say this real quick, and then we're going to move on to the next bracket. I mean, seriously, I do understand everybody's comments are going to come across like, oh my god, I can't believe you did that. But these are our opinions. I mean, these are things that it's just what we think. This isn't real. This isn't going to be
this
isn't
isn't
gonna
gonna
be-
official.
the word of, gaming gods. This is what happened. This is just our opinions and our small group of friends.
You also have to remember, I don't think anyone here is super into shooters.
Yeah, that's...
Um,
I like shooters, don't get me wrong. I just don't like the online side of it.
I
Okay.
feel like, you two are probably the two biggest into the shooting genre. I don't really know.
I mean, I've
Alright.
gotten into online shooters on occasion, but not very often.
I like
So
Halo.
we're gonna move
Right,
over.
Halo.
We're gonna move over to this last bracket, and I left this for last for a reason, because I think the one game in here is probably the number one seed in the fact that I have a feeling it'll either make it to the finals and win, or make it to the finals and lose. But I have a feeling it's gonna win. But that's just my opinion as of right now. So we're talking about Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, one of the launch titles for the Switch. still to this day is bought a lot.
It's at the second spot of the eShop still.
So it is one of the most purchased games for the Switch, and probably one of the most purchased games within the last couple of years. I see
how,
this.
How long ago did it come out, and it's still at full price?
Came out in
Almost
2016.
Yeah.
It's still a full price
Oh yeah,
game. New.
like I said, it was a launch.
Sorry, 2017.
It was a launch title for the Switch, so it came out the same time the Switch came out. I have only put maybe an hour, 2 hours into it. I'm not a huge Zelda fan. I have watched 90% of the story through somebody else playing it, and I could sit and watch them play that game all day. The game itself is absolutely amazing. There are so many cool things within the game itself. The cooking aspect to make food for, health and energy, or health and stamina, or health and heat. And the fact that in each realm they have different temperatures, so you have to keep Link from overheating or being too cold, or you have to have different clothing for him depending on what area he's in. Weapons break, shields break. You don't get to keep one weapon through the whole game. Now there is a sword, obviously the Master Sword. Once you are able to get it, it will break, but it'll eventually come back. So then you get it back. So it's on a timer. So once it breaks, it'll then show back up in your bag and you can use it again. The shield, I'm not sure if it breaks and it comes back, but I know it can break. I don't remember much about the shield.
Come back.
It does not come back. Okay, so that's something I did not know, but I know that you can get that shield. Everybody knows the Highland shield that from the Zelda games. But the whole premise of the game is great because it's like you can't just find the most powerful weapon and walk your way through some of the missions. They break. You use them too much, you lose it. And you got to find yourself another weapon. And they drop weapons throughout the whole game, so you just got to learn to use what you got to use. I can talk about it for a long time, so I'm going to move on to Nick, or I'll talk for another 10 minutes.
So I'm going to talk about the exact same thing you just did, in the opposite way. I hate the fact that you have to keep changing weapons in that game. I'm not a power gamer most of the time. I don't like to just grab the most powerful weapon and only use that. But I do like to flavor my characters. Like when I'm playing through a Dark Souls game, I'll do a dex build and I'll use a katana, or I'll use a strength build and I'll use a big hammer. With Breath of the Wild, you have to use what's available to you. And that's not something that you can change. That's just inherently part of the game. And I get that as part of the design. You have to learn how to use, bombs on certain enemies, or you have to learn how to adapt, from this situation to that situation. And that's just inherently part of the design. And that's not a bad thing, but I personally don't enjoy that aspect of it.
Okay.
Along that same vein, in my opinion, weapon degradation is one of the most annoying things in any video game ever.
And this just accelerates it.
Yeah, and I've never been a fan of any weapon degradation system. It's just not fun to me. But that said, while I'm not a huge Zelda guy, I did get into several of the Zeldas. I've always been more of a Metroid guy. That's just me. But I haven't actually played Breath of the Wild, but I have seen some of the speedruns of Breath of the Wild, and they are amazing to watch. So I will watch someone do a speedrun of this game all day long. That is fun.
Actually, you'll probably only watch it for about an hour. It's a speedrun.
Yeah, that's true.
Devin?
I gotta say that this game was insanely cool just to have out on the Switch. I think it basically coincides with a lot of the Switch's success as a console. I know that there was a lot of people that were aching just to buy the Switch so they could play Breath of the Wild with it being launched. I just remember the overwhelming feeling of excitement from gamers when the Switch first came out, and the people that got it and got Breath of the Wild, and they were talking, other than the fact that they were talking about not putting the cartridges in your mouth, which I don't understand why that was a subject
They
of
taste
conversation.
Do
But
they taste fine?
They do.
I think that Breath of the Wild is a hugely important game to the decade, and to Nintendo as a whole. I enjoyed playing it. I didn't play a whole lot of it. I enjoyed the hell out of playing it. I'm not really a big Zelda guy. I was very distracted by Pokemon for pretty much all of my life, and I didn't have eyes for much other than that. But this is a fantastic game in my opinion, with what I know about it.
I loved this game when I played it. I've beaten it twice. There's so much to do in it, and there's also so much stuff that you can just not do. That's what I think is also great about it. Like, if you really wanted to, you could go straight to the final boss. Or you can do half of the side bosses that make the final boss easier to beat. Or you could do all of them and then make your time really easy. Like, on my first playthrough, I couldn't find one of the bosses in the game, so I went ahead and just went straight to the final boss, and it was a little bit more difficult, but I still managed to pull through it, and that was pretty fun, honestly.
Probably pretty rewarding too.
Yeah, I think it's a phenomenal game. I loved every moment of it. I will say that the weapon degradation is kind of annoying. It does suck. There's also a lot of really dumb menial tasks in the game, like the Korok seeds. I think is it's unnecessary, and the fact that there's like 900 of them, and it's all these really really stupid tasks just around the whole map for like somebody to want to 100% the game. It would take them so long to figure out how to do that, especially if they were trying without a guide. They'd probably end up like hating themselves. But overall, I think it was a phenomenal game.
All right, so it's going up against Dragon Age Inquisition. Again, I can talk. I swear, I know how.
They have swords.
So, we talked about Dragon Age in the last episode for the last round. So, we're not going to do a whole lot of talking about Dragon Age. Is there any comparisons that anybody wants to talk about between the two games?
I don't think you can compare these two games.
Yeah, they're not terribly comparable.
If I'm being honest, I think we should just call out the elephant in the room, and I think it's going to be unanimous.
So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm just going to call it as a unanimous vote for Dragon Age Inquisition, right?
Agreed.
No,
Agreed.
no. Oh man, sorry about that. So, Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild moves on.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Surprise,
My
surprise,
vote's for
surprise.
Dragon Age.
All right,
It has
so
Dragon
we are
Age.
down to the final four. And for the interest of time, we are going to actually run the final four and the finals in another episode. So as of right now, again, no recommendations. We'll do some recommendations at the end of our bracket, at the end of our next episode. So with that said, I'm going to say farewell and talk at you later. Anybody else got any farewells?
Yeah. See you later.
Dragon Ball Evolution.